Welcome to the third session of the five-part educational series brought to you by the British Columbia Chamber of Commerce in partnership with the Canadian Purpose Economy Project about how to unlock the power of social purpose for your business. By following along with each session, using the tools provided on the BC Chamber of Commerce landing page for this series, you will be equipped to define and implement your company's unique social purpose. I'm Mary Ellen Shaftsma, founder of Purpose Pathways Consulting, Purpose Advisor, and a Canadian Purpose Economy Project Ambassador. I've been in the field of social purpose for over 9 years now, having helped more than 45 companies and organizations adopt and implement a social purpose as the reason they exist. I'm your facilitator for this series. Our vision for this series is that more businesses of every size and sector feel inspired and equipped to get crystal clear on the societal reason they exist and begin to activate on that purpose so that they power more good in the world by doing business. We want to see companies succeed while growing the ongoing good that they're capable of by becoming a social purpose business. The BC Chamber of Commerce would like to thank Coast Capital for its sponsorship of this series. To create this series, unless otherwise specified, we've gratefully drawn upon the many resources developed by the United Way of British Columbia's Social Purpose Institute, Purpose Pathways Consulting, Coro Strandberg, a leading social purpose expert, and the extensive library that the Canadian Purpose Economy Project has produced and curated. So before we begin the new material, let's do a quick review of the last sessions to remember what we've covered and then where we're going. And importantly, just a reminder of what social purpose is. A social purpose business is a business whose reason for being is to create a better world. It's the company's strategic, optimal contribution to the long-term well-being for all. Its purpose is to profitably solve the problems of people and planet without causing harm to either. So I say it every time, this does not mean that you turn your for-profit business into a not-for-profit or a social enterprise. You are still the business you were set up to be. What it does mean is that you redefine why your company exists in the world and why you're doing this particular business in the first place, why you exist. So in session 1, we talked about how important it was to educate. First of all, educate yourself as a purpose champion within your organization. Also educate your senior leaders on what social purpose is, why it's good for business, and gain that agreement to proceed to become a social purpose company. Then we had you look at your company's unique business case for purpose and the rationale behind why you'd want to pursue it. You'd update your colleagues on what purpose is and why you're pursuing one, and recruit a social purpose steering committee or advisory group. So hopefully for some of you, some of that work's been done. Then in the last session, session 2, we looked at research. And we talked about the things you need to dive into in order to capture all of the input you will need to rigorously identify what your company's best fit social purpose is. If it's done rigorously, you can be confident that you've arrived at the social purpose that will optimize your impact and be authentic to who you are as a business. There are many different ways to articulate your social purpose, and the key is finding the statement that best fits who you are and maximizes your unique contribution to the world. In the research portion, we talked about digging into your company background, identifying your origin story, why your founder started the business in the first place, and the various iterations you've gone through, identifying your company's distinctive strengths that you can leverage towards a social purpose, looking at the community, societal, environmental issues upon which you can have the most impact. And we looked at the Sustainable Development Goals as a framework to help you do that, and then shortlisting those. and also consultation with stakeholders on what they believe could be your purpose focus and the greater good potential for your business. So that was session 2, research. Again, hopefully you were able to do that in between. And now we are on step 3 of the 7-step roadmap that we've been working from in order to help you identify and implement your social purpose. So today in this session, we're in step 3, define. We're going to uncover how you leverage the research you did and take everything we've done up to this point to hold a social purpose ideation session. Tell you what that is in a moment. And that will result in a draft social purpose statement options. Then we'll look at how to draft a social purpose underlying narrative, and I'll explain that as well. And finally, secure approval for a final social purpose statement, which will help you move on to the next phase, which is implementation. So here we go. Let's get into it. So just a quick reminder, how does an organization uncover its best fit social purpose? So this Venn diagram was part of the research step, and hopefully you did the work and have it with you in this session to refer to. By creating a Venn diagram like this, you'll be able to analyze what your purpose should be, where what the world needs intersects with what you bring to the world or who you are. So considering what are the big hairy problems in the world? What does the world need? And you looked at the sustainable development goals, and you honed in on a few that were most related to what your business might be able to bring. Then you narrowed it down and moved over to the other side, the who you are. So you outlined the strengths that your company brings that you can leverage in order to have the impact you're looking to have. You outlined your competencies and assets. And again, where those intersect, that's where your purpose will bubble up and create big, bold opportunities. And that's what we're going to do today. So how does a well-defined social purpose inspire action, guide decision-making, and resonate with both internal and external stakeholders? That's a lot of demands on a social purpose statement. But if it has these characteristics, you're off to a very good start. So it should foster credibility. It has to be believable so that when people hear it, they think, or better yet, say, yeah, I can see that about your business. It makes sense. It has to inspire and mobilize stakeholders. It has to serve as like a rallying cry, bringing other people along. You cannot possibly accomplish your social purpose on your own. You need people with you and behind it. You need people that want to join your efforts, whether it be employees, customers, supply chain partner, or even a government regulator who see what you're doing and what you're trying to do, and they want to help. It should attract customers, partners, investment by demonstrating a transformed business model that is good for business because it's good for society. It focuses your strategy. Now that everyone who is working to make your company succeed understands exactly why you exist, everything in your strategy will have some relation to that, and a new level of alignment across the company will emerge. Lastly, it enables organizational agility. It has to be big and aspirational enough that it drives progress farther and faster, as well as serve as a decision lens to help your organization and your employees make faster decisions, more aligned with where you want to be. And then there are 4 qualities that have to be present for an effective and true social purpose statement. So it has to be, again, existential, the core reason for being, reflecting that higher purpose beyond profit. Again, not to say you eliminate profit, but your purpose explains why you exist beyond making money. And why you exist is not limited to your customers or offering products. It's larger than that. It has to have a pro-social impact, and by that we mean it has to have tangible societal benefits, not just lack of harm, but benefits by tackling a critical issue sustainably and strategically. It has to be something your company has the capacity to impact upon and that you can do for the long term because it's integrated into your business model. It is not marketing, so it cannot come across as a tagline or branding. Again, it's fundamental to your core. It's not your CSR, which is how you're giving back and reducing negative impacts. And it's not your philanthropy. Those are great things and they will be guided by your purpose, but those are what you're doing, not why you're doing it. Your purpose is your why. It answers the question why you exist. And we often start with this prefix phrase, we exist too, and then an action verb at that, and then identifying the societal impact you're pursuing. And we'll look at this structure of a social purpose statement in a moment. After you've defined your purpose, you can drop the we exist too, if you so choose, because it will remain obviously implicit. And we're going to show you a few examples of what this looks like in a minute. And finally, a well-defined social purpose should inspire action, guide decision-making, and resonate internally and externally. So as you work on defining your company's social purpose, keep these criteria in mind. As you're crafting it, think about, is it relevant to your business? Not any business, your business. However, so avoid self-interest. It's not about you, it's about what you want to bring to the world. Societal focus addresses a societal issue that's relevant to your business, not just focused on your products or customers, and does not include your ESG or CSR priorities. Legacy, tie your purpose to the legacy or origin story of the company, why the business was founded in the first place. There's something there. Should be bold and compelling. Make sure the company is addressing something, large and important and audacious. Otherwise, it's only going to get you so far. And it's not going to inspire. It should be inspirational. Accelerating positive change that benefits people and inspires action. Should be succinct so that it's memorable. So choose words that are clear, unambiguous, don't need a lot of explanation. Get to the point and make sure you avoid things that might sound like marketing slogans or using buzzwords or vague platitudes. Making the world a better place is not a purpose. It is the broad aim of a purpose, but you need to get a little bit more specific than that. Be creative and distinctive. Apply out-of-the-box thinking to differentiate from your competitors and use fun things like alliteration, rhyming, or other language to make your purpose, again, memorable. Positivity. Generally, we say use positive language. What is the positive aim of your social purpose versus the problem you're trying to address? Unless highlighting a clear nemesis or challenge is more powerful that you're trying to overcome. It's authentic and aligned to your values. Again, people have to recognize that this purpose matches who you are as a business. And finally, feasibility. It leverages your company's unique abilities and assets. It has to be related to what you do as a business and make sense and be actionable given who you are. And it should allow room for your organization to grow. Okay, so let's get into what a social purpose statement looks like. This is the main structure made up of 3 essential components. So first, as I mentioned, we always start with the prefix phrase, we exist too. That keeps you focused on your why and keeps you from slipping back into the how and the what, which I have to say, every single business I've worked with through this process tends to slip into that. They start talking about how they do things, what they do. And while those things are important and remain, they are not your why. So the we exist too helps keep you focused on the why. Next, it should be followed by an inspiring action verb. So choose strong, engaging, a dynamic verb that conveys energy, motivation, and a sense of purpose. The verb needs to inspire because that shows decisiveness and a proactive attitude and fosters that emotional connection, which can make it more impactful and motivate others to take action or see the potential. So, for example, instead of saying start, say ignite. Instead of help, say empower. Instead of improve, say revolutionize. It may feel a little bit over the top, but it drives you forward. It makes you feel like there's an aspiration. It makes you feel more empowered to meet your purpose if you're using verbs that motivate. And then third, it must describe the end result, the intended impact, the positive change you will see in the world by implementing your purpose. Many companies add a bit more into their statement, which is generally fine, with the caveat that it doesn't get too long. Sometimes companies add things like towards whom the impact will be geared or the level of stakeholder. Usually it's very broad, like the world, the country, society, but it's always beyond just your local community and beyond your immediate stakeholders. It has to have that larger ripple effect. So who are you intending to impact? And by the way, there is an opportunity to add that level of elaboration on your statement within the underlying narrative, which I'll tell you about next. So your statement can remain pithy and memorable while also having a degree of detail underneath it that underpins it. So we'll look at a couple of examples so you can see what I'm talking about. So these examples, the bolded text are the essential components. We exist to, the action verb, and the intended impact. So Intuit, which is QuickBooks, their purpose is we exist to power, there's your action verb, prosperity, the intended impact. And they added the level of stakeholder, or for whom, for the world. So we exist to power prosperity around the world. Hemlock Printers, a BC-based business. We exist to create, the action verb, connections, community, and inspiring actions that safeguard, that's an end, the health of the world's forests. That's another end. So they have both a social and an environmental element in their purpose. You can get creative with this. Return It, which is an industry-owned product stewardship organization in British Columbia with beverage container management as their core business. Again, we exist to foster, the action verb, and then the intended impact, that nothing is waste. So they add for the world. We exist to foster a world where nothing is waste. Now think about the potential for impact in that, and how if they had just said the province or British Columbia, how contained and limited their impact would be. Now they can take what they're doing and what they're learning and what they're practicing to the world. And in fact, they are. BDC, Business Development Canada. We exist to empower, your action verb, a better tomorrow, the intended impact or the end. For who? A nation of dreamers and doers, the entrepreneurs. And for who the impact is for all. We exist to empower a nation of dreamers and doers to build a better tomorrow for all. Bullfrog Power, last one. We exist to inspire and empower, two action verbs, a renewably powered future, the intended impact, the end. They do also add on for who, for people. They want to create the conditions where people can lead the way on this. They know they can't do it alone. They're bringing people along using this rallying cry. So hopefully that gives you a picture of how social purpose statements come together and are crafted and are very unique to every business. As I mentioned, we also help you identify what your underlying narrative is. So your social purpose statement should be concise, compelling, aspirational. That doesn't feel like a marketing slogan, but as we know, it cannot say it all. It should say enough to make people feel intrigued and be left with curiosity and excitement, wanting to know more. What does this mean? What does this look like? And that is where the narrative comes in. It describes your purpose in a bit more detail, not the fine detail, but just what do you mean by it? It's the story behind your purpose that bolsters and underpins the reason that is your purpose, what it means to you, and what people can expect as you bring it to life. It provides context and reasoning to give your purpose depth and meaning, and articulates why the purpose matters and more about the impact it seeks to create. This step is essential for effective communication, both within your organization and with external stakeholders. Often, employees and stakeholders don't fully understand the purpose statement because of its succinctness, but it's meant to inspire for them to go on to read the underlying narrative, and in there they're going to see how they might contribute to it. It helps them understand what it means, why it matters, and what role they can play to bring it to life. So, what to include in your narrative? These are four components that you can think of as the building blocks to shape your narrative. So let's break down why each one is important and what it means. So first of all, you could flesh out what each phrase or keyword means in the statement. So every word in your social purpose statement carries weight. It's important to clarify what each key term means for your organization. This ensures that the purpose is understood in the context of your business and leaves no room for confusion. You could articulate the beliefs or the truisms that your organization holds about the world that underpin why this is your statement. At the heart of your purpose, there are certain values or beliefs that guide why you do what you do. By sharing those underlying principles, you provide insight into the motivations that drive your organization, helping others understand your purpose on a deeper level. You could describe the specific contribution your organization intends to make to the world by pursuing its purpose. So, your social purpose should clearly outline what tangible difference your organization aims to make. And this is where you get more specific about your impact, whether it's environmental, social, or something else. What social issue are you addressing? Income inequality, social polarization, or alternatively, what environmental issue does your purpose target? Climate change, biodiversity loss? Get a little more specific and explain what your purpose, your general purpose means in on boots on the ground terms. And lastly, you can explain how your purpose creates value for your customers, for your business, for society. A strong narrative highlights the broader value of your purpose. So, for believability and to build internal and external buy-in and motivation, you need to set out how the purpose will be relevant to your customers. How are they going to benefit? Also, how will the purpose help your business grow? What's that business model alteration? And of course, the broader society or planet. How will the world benefit because of your purpose? Not in isolation, in partnership with others, but what's the intended benefit for the world? So this all helps create alignment and shows the wider implications of your work. We also have some sort of introductory phrases that you can use to start off the points in your underlying narrative. Kind of like we exist to, but now in your underlying narrative, you say, by this we mean, and then explain each main word or phrase. Or when we do this, we will see, and then describe the impact or end results for the various stakeholders. Or we believe, and then outline the truisms that underpin why this is your social purpose statement. We will leverage. We will leverage our business model, how you make money, to make whatever specific difference is intended and adds value. That sort of looks at the different levels of stakeholders and how they experience it. And we recommend 3 to 5 sub-points in your underlying narrative, not too many, because the way that people are going to experience your purpose will also be fleshed out and be evident by what you begin to do and how you implement it. So let's now look at the process for you to use to land on your unique social purpose statement and narrative. Stakeholder ideation session. When we use the word ideation, we're talking about a process similar to brainstorming, but with very specific inputs. So it's a process by which you come up with ideas based on data, your inputs, but that are also novel and bring together the rational and the imaginative into something inspirational and aspirational. So we do suggest you consider holding an external stakeholder ideation session as part of your overall stakeholder consultation. It is optional, but it's recommended because it improves the work of your internal social purpose steering committee, which ultimately is responsible for crafting your statement. And it provides deeper insights, making their efforts more informed. The benefits are it gathers more diverse perspectives, making your purpose robust, meaningful, and impactful. It can also surface gaps and opportunities that you might overlook just being inside it all, and definitely bolsters buy-in when it's co-created, paving the way for future collaboration. There are many benefits to do it. Who should you invite? Think of a broad range of stakeholders, customers and clients, whether long-standing, new, or even prospects. What do they think you should focus on in society? Community reps like local leaders, NGOs, not-for-profits, relevant to the issues you're thinking about targeting. You can look at industry leaders, peers, business partners, suppliers, your association, even regulators like policy influencers, key government officials. Get them involved, get them inspired. Definitely employees and representatives from various departments and from frontline staff who are seeing the results of what your company does on the ground. They'll have some very valuable and unique insights. And finally, think of thought leaders, academics, experts, consultants, relevant to the areas you're considering. And to hold an ideation session with external stakeholders, structure the session much like the one I'm about to show you that you'll do with your internal social purpose steering committee. It's the same for them, just different audience. Ultimately, the final drafting of your social purpose statement or options rests with your internal purpose team, your steering committee, your advisory group, whatever you're calling it. So these are the final steps to developing your social purpose statement. Gather all those inputs, everything you've put together from the research step, have it ready, and I'll show you how to use the information in a real life example of something I did with one of my clients. Then ideate, that brainstorming, ideate your statement or two or three, get a little bit closer to what you think it should be. And then draft the underlying narrative, which will also actually help clarify the statement as you're considering how to articulate in a bit more detail what your statement means. You're going to get more clarity on what it should be if you have several options. Then you want to validate it. So bring that draft back to stakeholders to make sure you're not missing anything important, that it resonates with the right people, identify any blind spots or red flags, and then finalize and get it approved. So in the next slides, I'll show you exactly how I did an ideation session using a real life example of a Miro board, which is an online whiteboard that I worked through with a client that she gave me permission to share. And what I'm about to show you was done virtually on Miro, M-I-R-O. But you can also use a whiteboard in real life, making sure you capture your work as you go. So first screenshot. The Miro board is a really incredible tool because you can set it up ahead of time. You can summarize key points and move items around as you work through them and with them and bring key, most meaningful points forward from one area of the board to the next as you're working towards finalizing your social purpose. So the next few slides are screenshots of an actual Miro board that I worked through for a client, a company called On Track Accounting Solutions. I helped the owner and CEO define her social purpose last year. So they're an accounting and bookkeeping firm in Toronto, led by a really dynamic and brilliant woman who wants to change the world using what she does best, as do you all. This is how you do it. So this first screenshot illustrates how we use purpose statement examples. So those examples you dug up from other companies in the same business or aligned business and the analysis that we did. So whoever's running your session can set this up ahead of time. So what we did in the far left column are all the similar business purpose statements. And then the CEO and I went through and observed, what do we like? What don't we like about these purpose statements? In the green column, what stood out as something she really liked and wanted to consider going forward into the rest of the deliberations and ideation. Which ideas, words, phrases don't you like? Do you like? Make sure you stay away from that. And as we did that, I pulled everything onto the yellow sticky that can then be moved forward onto the next component of the board as we work through the rigorous process of getting really clear on your company's social purpose. Then we moved on to consider what you've already put your thought into, the Sustainable Development Goals +3, SDGs +3. We looked at those again, and I had her select all of the SDGs that she felt somehow touched and were relevant to her business. That's the pink stickies there, the numbers. And what we're trying to do is be sure nothing is overlooked, to be confident in the end that all relevant information was considered and distilled into the best. Then I asked her to narrow it down to 3 and explain to me right then and there why those 3. What do they mean in the context of her business and what they looked like from her perspective? Excellent information to carry forward to feed your thinking as we moved to the next step. Then we moved over the key SDGs into the Venn diagram on the right. And then we pulled out the key things about what her company, On Track Accounting Solutions, brings to the world. Obviously, expertise in accounting and bookkeeping. That's their firm. That's what she does. That's what many accounting and bookkeeping firms do. But what else does that business bring to the world? Well, she uncovered more of those intangibles that set her company apart and can uniquely be leveraged to help change the world and influence those 3 SDGs most relevant to her business. So for example, in the highlights that we use various colors, strong advocacy voice and influence. People listen to her when she talks. She knows what she's talking about. She has a unique ability to wayfind and good at breaking through all the noise and getting to what's really important. Relationships, relating to people with conversation and understanding, humility and authenticity. All of these things and more were what rose to the top that she could leverage within her business to impact the societal issues she feels are most relevant to her business so that she can optimize her impact. So we moved all of that information over and we started brainstorming because, as we know, in the overlap of the Venn, she did find her business's purpose. So we moved everything over from all those duly considered inputs and started workshopping it, ideating. So we started with, and this table is in the worksheet on the BC Chamber website, we exist to give it that structure to stay on track. And then we pulled forward some of those inspiring action verbs that we noted from the examples of other businesses and started thinking through, is there any other way to express the same idea with a different word? In Miro, and you can also use ChatGPT or whatever AI assist you use There is a button in Miro where you can put your cursor on a particular word or sticky note, and it will generate synonyms for that word. So trust was an important word for her. And so we did that, and you can't see them all on the screenshot, but what it did was it generated, I think, 9 or 12 options. It just increases the options you have, the things that you can think about, more fodder, more ideas to get creative and unique. So feel free to find that unique, captivating language that you can use, that inspiring action verb. So my client was really homing in on creating, inspiring, building, empowering. These things, these ideas really got her excited and enthusiastic about the future. We did get a little bit into the how, but that's okay, because actually all of that led to her epiphany about what her purpose was. And all along the way, that was part of the job of the facilitator, in this case myself, is to keep the focus on the why. Sure, we can talk a bit about the how, but why? Why is that important? Keep asking that question. So she was really thinking along the lines of influencing new pathways, removing barriers, creating financial literacy, education, improving systems. Those were the how. As I said, kept asking her, tell me why. Why are those important? What is the end she would achieve by applying those capacities, those solutions? What was the end outcome? So when she described why these things she wanted to do and could do were important, and what the change would be for the better towards solving the problems, she found her why. So we just threw it all down. We deleted, we rewrote, we moved words and phrases around, we mixed and matched, we clarified meaning and impact. And finally, we landed on 3 different but similar statements. And then we started workshopping those to see where we would land up. So these 3 purple stickies are, at the bottom is the version of a draft statement that we started playing around with, seeing what we could tease out in terms of the underlying narrative options that might make her final statement more compelling and obvious. So as you do this yourself, find wordings or ideas that don't quite fit and just weed those out and keep refining. The more you think about it, the more you talk about it, the more you look at what's on your stickies and move things around and mix and match. It's all a very creative, dynamic exercise. And it's that ideating that creates a sense that things start to feel right. You know, you'll feel a sense of frustration during this whole process, I guarantee you, because you always think it should be easier than this, but it's not. But the reason that it's not easy is because you're very serious about finding your genuine, authentic purpose. It has to be deep and meaningful, so you have to go through the process. So doing this, working through all the options, thinking, deleting, adding, moving around, there's this moment. It's an incredible moment where suddenly everybody goes a bit quiet. And then they say, sit back and look at a statement and say, yes, that's it. That's why we exist. That's what it means to us. It will happen. It happens every time. And it is the most incredible moment of achievement and understanding and peace about what it is that you bring to the world. It's quite incredible. So here is where On Track Accounting Solutions, again, that bookkeeping and accounting firm, landed. On Track Accounting Solutions champions, action verb, the dreams of those building today's vibrant economy and outcome. So as a bookkeeping and accounting firm, it does much more than help businesses with their finance. All firms like that do that. By leveraging what she and her company do best and uniquely, she champions the dreamers towards building today's vibrant economy. She's there as a supporter, as an advisor, as an inspiration, and as an advocate for needed change. And she chose for her underlying narrative to delineate how she would accomplish this. So the main point being, advocate for authentic financial reporting through a paradigm shift. And then specifically how the things that she does very, very well: redefine financial statements, embrace abundance mindset over scarcity, foster global collaboration. This is not a her problem and her client problem. This is a global problem and a global need in the world to create that vibrant economy. Restructure education and credentialing pathways, streamline things within the profession. So there it is. I mean, very unique. She is not just like all other accounting firms. She brings her own special skills and mindset to grow societal good in the world by doing business. This shows up in her distinctive purpose. So, as On Track Accounting Solutions did, you will need to internally test and validate your draft social purpose as well. So first off, ask yourself, once you've got it, you landed on it, just to be sure, does the draft align with what your company does? And does it create a flexible foundation for the future? You don't want it to be too narrow that you're stuck in this one path that you want, but you don't want it to be so broad that it doesn't help guide decision making. So can you see how it allows and creates the space for future innovation while helping you make decisions? Can you see your business model and the opportunities to create more value in it? It has to be applicable to doing your business and increasing the value for all your stakeholders and the world. Are there any contradictions with your business's core activities that are essential and unlikely to change? Then it's not your business's purpose, it is something else. Does it align with what you heard from your stakeholders, and will it resonate with them? They need to, you don't have to take all of the input and feedback and have it represented there, but they need to read it, see it, learn it, and feel that they were heard when you asked them their opinion. Then test it externally. And how in-depth you do this is up to you. But we do suggest you go back to the stakeholders you also already consulted, just to see if you hit the mark. And ideally, also find a group of people who haven't been that involved. So they're not like no preconceived ideas about it. They're reading it kind of for the first time. And the best first question is, what's your initial gut reaction to this as you're asking your stakeholders? Do they go, wow, that's really interesting? Or, I don't get it. Both of those responses are worth a look. Have them feel it first, because that's what's intended to create an emotional, inspired response. Another organization I worked with, some of the board members said they felt very moved by the proposed purpose. I mean, that's what you're going for. Ask your stakeholders, does it meet the criteria of a good social purpose statement? Go back to those 10 criteria and you'll find a link to them in the worksheet for this session, and just test it with them. Does it meet this? Does it meet that? Ask them, will it inspire action and engagement from them? Do they kind of want to come along? Is it a rallying cry? And are there any red flags, or did we get it right? What we often find is that there will be words that may trigger some people, and often it's just that person or some people, but not a generalized issue. So it can become something just to be aware of, that some people will hear the word and interpret it that way, even though that's not what you meant. And what you can do, you can change the word, or you can keep the word and just be aware that this could happen and be ready to explain, or make sure your underlying narrative adds the clarification needed for people to understand what that word means when you use it in your statement. And also, what we found after you test it externally, about half the time, nothing changes. The company decides they're going to stick with what they've crafted. They'll understand where the trouble spots might be and deal with it as they go. The other half do make changes, because of the input from the testing. And either way is totally fine. It is just another step to ensure the rigor and authenticity of your purpose. This is your social purpose. It has to be defined by you. It has to be authentic to you and your company and needs to resonate with the vast majority of people within your organization. After all of this work you did, you will know best what that is. You will own it and you will become true champions of it. So make it yours. So chances are your highest level decision makers have not been routinely involved, maybe one or two of them, but it has to go to them for final approval. If you have a board, the board has to approve it. If you don't have a board, it has to go to the owner, the CEO, or the senior executive team. They will need to champion it and be ready to transform the company's business to realize it. And therefore, they need to understand it and approve it and love it. Highly recommend reviewing the process of how you got to it with that group is very important so that they understand the rigor, the stakeholder involvement, the full consideration of all relevant inputs, and the iterative ideation process that got you and your team to the statement and underlying narrative. It's very assuring to know the rigor behind arriving at what you did. And when leaders hear how the stakeholders responded during the testing, this too will assure them that the purpose presented to them is the best fit, fully authentic one to carry the organization forward into the future. So whatever this step looks like for your company, whatever the highest level of decision maker is, get it approved and officially adopted. As the social purpose statement is approved, you need to secure a commitment from your leaders to integrate it into the company's strategy and operations, and then you need to communicate the purpose to staff. What kind of commitment is required? Resource allocation. The business must dedicate necessary resources, time, personnel, financial support to integrate the social purpose. Leadership and accountability. Business leaders in your organization have to take responsibility for driving the purpose through the organization. That means actively leading by example and being accountable for ensuring the purpose is not only approved but championed in practice. They have to commit to integrating it into business strategy. The overall business strategy and decision-making processes must be run through the purpose decision lens. And every aspect of the business model, from product development to marketing and customer engagement, has to advance the purpose. This is what creates the alignment, cultural alignment. Business leaders must commit to fostering an organizational culture that reflects the social purpose, embedding it into core values, employee engagement, day-to-day operations, making sure the culture supports and lives the purpose, which actually strengthens the culture. It's a beautiful, virtuous circle. You really must get the leaders of the organization committed to being champions of this. If there is no evidence that they believe in your social purpose, that they're committed to making it an integral core component to your company, no one else will believe it and it will fail. Finally, communicate it. And we'll talk a lot more about this in the next session when we build an implementation plan. But in the first instance, communicate it at least internally and with the stakeholders you consulted to kind of close the loop on that and make sure everybody's aware of what has occurred and what's about to happen. Let them know what the social purpose is, help them understand its significance, and be sure to communicate what your next steps will be so that people know and get excited about it. Listen, nobody expects you to flip a switch and everything's fully aligned. What they will expect is that you communicate your intent and the steps to fully implement the social purpose and bring it to life. And that's what we're going to cover in the next 2 sessions. Hope you come back for those. So back to the roadmap and the 7 steps to developing and implementing your social purpose. That, my friends, was step 3, define. Honestly, one of the most fun processes and most interesting ways to really dig into your business and really understand why you exist. There is a tool outlining this process, giving you some of the tables and ideas to use, some advice on how to conduct your ideation session. Excuse me. That is on the BC Chamber of Commerce landing page for this series. Please go there, grab it, and use it as you work through your own ideation session and crafting your own unique social purpose statement and underlying narrative. So, before the next session, please take the tools, take what you've heard here, and work to define your company's social purpose and underlying narrative. This is such an exciting time, and you will really enjoy the process of getting to that and feel the inspiration yourselves and pass that along to all of your stakeholders when you define your social purpose and underlying narrative. And next time, we'll begin to plan implementation. Thank you so much for watching this session and for committing to become a social purpose company. I wish you all the best with this. Very much good luck as you work to define your authentic, genuine, optimal, best fit social purpose.